And I will just share my screen so we can guide the conversation a little bit. Welcome to our March meeting. We will continue to, oh, my screen went black. Let's see what happens here. We will continue to hold these meetings on the third Thursday of each month. So if you registered for this meeting, you should have the link for each of the meetings moving forward. If you want to invite someone else, be sure that you forward the registration link, not just your calendar invite, so that they receive reminders and calendar invitations as well. I guess we won't go with the slides for now. It seems to be spinning in a circle here, but I thought we could do a really quick round of introductions. I think most of us know each other on this call, but there might be a couple folks who aren't quite familiar with everyone's names and roles. So if we could do a quick round of your name, the organization that you work with and your role there, and then what parts of our Tri-County region you serve. I'm Shelby Arthur, Broadband Consortium Pacific Coast. I'm focusing on coordinating the Tri-County effort and then also focused in Santa Barbara County. Bill, can I hand it over to you?
Sure, Jen. Bill Simmons, and I'm relieved to be focusing in the Ventura County effort and working with Shelby in terms of helping where I can. But she's much better in terms of this season than I am in terms of the big picture. And I am working, I am purposely interested in pushing the smart city discussion further. And so I will stay very much involved Tri-County wise in anything that's smart city related, but in terms of how we're organizing and how we're evolving as a consortia, I'm going to stay closer to home. So, and I'll turn it over to Russ Levenway. He's my counterpart.
Hello, Russ Levenway, Executive Vice President at REACH. We're really excited about our involvement in this process. Like we are a contractor with Broadband Consortium for convening in San Luis Obispo County. So basically what that means is our goal is to, as much as possible, help support like alignment and getting the various projects in San Luis Obispo County on the same page for a more regional plan in the style of what's been successful in Santa Barbara. So we want to support that effort in any way that we can. And also, you know, I have a role in the technical advisory aspects of all of this as a previous lifetime in IT and the IT field as a CEO and president of IT company and quite a bit of involvement in the technical underpinnings of broadband. So I'm happy to like just bring that insight into the advisory conversations as well. From here, I guess we'll popcorn it over. Maybe I'll pass it to Tim.
Hi, everybody. My name is Tim Tierney, doing GIS support for the Broadband Consortium. I think that's all I'm going to say about myself at this time. Nice to meet you all. Shelby, why don't you pick who goes next?
I will. I'm just going to run through the windows here on my screen. So Carrie, would you mind introducing yourself, please?
Sure. I'm Kerry Gray out of Santa Maria. I'm working with the Shumash and the Econ Alliance. I'm the their broadband technical lead for the project.
Thank you. Steve Weingart?
Steve Weingart with Ridge Communications. We engineer, permit, build, maintain wireless facilities and fiber optic networks in Ventura, Santa Barbara counties, as well as throughout the state of California.
Thank you. And Eleanor?
Hi, everyone. Eleanor Gartner. I'm on the Public and Government Affairs team at Cox Communications for our Santa Barbara market, where we serve South County, Santa Barbara. I'm really excited to be part of this group and partner with BCPC on all things digital equity, community Wi-Fi, and smart city solutions.
Thank you. Jory, you're up next.
Good morning, everyone. Jory Wolf, the Executive Director for Magellan Advisors on the West Coast, serving the states of Washington, Oregon, California, and Arizona. We are working with Ventura County specifically, and of course, many other cities and counties throughout the state of California. We've been working very closely with the broadband consortia of the Pacific Coast for about 4 years now. And I've done a lot of master planning up and down the West Coast. We are assisting cities not only in planning, doing consulting work, but we also provide design engineering services and construction management. The only thing we don't do is construction itself, but we also assist in construction bidding. So we assist our clients soup to nuts, turnkey from the beginning to the end, and then support in formulating JPAs and in other forms of governance. Good to meet you all.
Thanks, Troy. Lisa Ludovici.
Hey everyone, Lisa Ludovici, Director of Government Affairs for Charter Communications. We are a broadband provider in San Luis Obispo and Ventura counties, and a little bit of northern Santa Barbara County.
Thanks, Lisa. I have Will next on my screen. Right.
Hi, I'm Will Murat with Magellan. I work with Jory and the rest of the West Coast team, specifically on Ventura County project, and also we're working on a project for San Luis Obispo, the city of San Luis Obispo. Thanks.
You, Alan Casares.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Alan Casares here with the San Luis Obispo Council of Governments. We're the metropolitan planning organization for the San Luis Obispo region. Currently, I'm the broadband point of contact here. I help out with some of the applications that come out of grant applications that come out of our region. I've helped with the GIS mapping specifically. And now that we have board approval, SLOCOG will be convening regional roundtable discussions to try to get some more regional coordination for future broadband steps with the help of REACH and other regional partners. We're hoping it'll follow some of the same processes as this group here, but just more infrastructure focus. And yeah, thank you. Glad to be here.
Thanks, Alan. Last but certainly not least, Terry Theobald. Would you just introduce yourself?
Hi, Terry Theobald, Chief Information Officer, Ventura County.
Thanks for being here. Let's see if I can share my screen again. It's working this time. And maybe I won't move it to presentation mode. So just a brief overview of our agenda today. The bulk of our meeting is going to be focused on updates with an opportunity for a roundtable discussion and for partners to share out their updates with us at the end of the meeting. Based on the approximate times, we may be able to give you 10 minutes back of your day, if not a little bit more. But certainly don't want that to hinder the conversation. So please feel free to interject as we're providing our updates with your questions and your own thoughts as we're moving forward in the discussion. So in terms of infrastructure updates, we have a pretty solid list here, but we wanted to start with the CPUC CASIF application information. First up, notifying if you haven't already been part of this mailing list that CASIF infrastructure grant, the deadline is coming up April 1st. We do have reason to believe that it may be extended. We don't have solid confirmation, but we know that that's been a recommendation to the executive team at CPUC. They are hosting an infrastructure application webinar. If this is something that interests you, if you're a telecom that's looking to apply for CASIF infrastructure grant funds, we highly recommend that you attend this webinar. I will send the flyer out after this meeting to all the folks that participated here today so that you can register for it if that's something that you think is on your plate to apply for. We also really want to emphasize as the broadband consortium that we are here to help you with your application. If you have questions for CPUC, we are your point of contact. If you want to vet a priority project and talk through the opportunities with us, we're here to provide insight in terms of the regional planning efforts. And we also really just want to know if you're planning to apply so that we can track applications and report up to CPUC when our reporting timelines come along, that, you know, what is going on in our region. So save the date for March 22nd for a webinar coming up. The second CASIF update is their annual public meeting. Let's see, do you see the flyer here? April 10th from 10 to 3. This is the opportunity to facilitate collaboration. So for us to comment and provide feedback and to hear updates based on the CASIF funding opportunities and the process. So I encourage anyone on this call to attend, or if you can't attend, please feel free to send us your information, your feedback, your thoughts, any challenges you've experienced or opportunities you see that maybe aren't realized, and we'll be happy to you know, send that information right on up through this public workshop. A reminder that LATA grants are still available. If your community has not applied for a LATA grant and there is some capacity building that you think would hold good potential for your organization, we really encourage you to look at the LATA grant application. It's not a tough application, especially when compared to maybe the CASIF infrastructure application. They are accepting those on a rolling basis. We have several from our region that are in the approval process that are under consideration. So we're tracking really closely what's going on with the LATA grants that have been submitted in preparation for implementing and leveraging the regional outlook, the regional work to make those LATA grants as useful as possible. So if you are interested in applying for a LATA grant, if you haven't already, your organization hasn't already applied for one, please let us know. We're happy to talk through that with you. And then finally, the CASIF adoption grants are due July 1st. Adoption grants cover digital equity projects, and that could be something such as developing a call center for your region. It could be technical equipment. It could be infrastructure upgrades for maybe a community center that needs Wi-Fi to serve the local community. And then it also provides coverage for digital literacy projects. And so if there are organizations that you work with or you yourself that are interested in potentially applying for an adoption grant, we have worked with a couple organizations to submit those. So we are happy to support your ideas and your brainstorming. Due July 1st. And we would say, you know, if you're going to get started on it, now is a good time to start at least the ideation process for a CASIF adoption grant. BCPC team, do you want to add anything to the CASIF conversation here?
I think you covered it really well.
Those are the updates we know about so far.
Yep.
And we'll continue sending more information out as it comes available. I'm going to kick it over to Russ then. If no one has any questions about the CASIF grant process or opportunities for a little SLO County update.
Sure. Actually, I'll just work backwards from tomorrow. Tomorrow is kind of like a milestone because there's going to be a kickoff meeting for the countywide broadband strategic plan. So this is the plan that is under the purview of the RCRC, and Teleworks is the organization that is contracted to perform that work. Now, this countywide plan is meant to, like the initial scope of it, is really meant to be for the unincorporated areas of the county. So it's not necessarily the be-all, the ends-all master plan, and I think we're all aware of that. So, but the kickoff meeting tomorrow is for the technical advisory committee that will be inputting into the creation of that plan. So that's really, it's a great milestone. And we hope clarity we're working on Magellan broadband with the city of San Luis Obispo, or the plan that's happening in North County right now, how those can like kind of tie in. We do hope to get a little bit more clarity on that tomorrow. So they just want to, share that piece is probably the most significant one. And in parallel times, as Alan alluded to, we are basically working on the convening a broadband group that is meant to be a long-term sustainable group that is the owner of, say, our regional broadband infrastructure needs for the county, because that is something that government needs to understand and maintain long past when we create a plan. So this is something that Alan has been working on standing up, and and to create continuity and not create yet another meeting. The same technical advisory people who are going to be involved with the RCRC plan would also be in that meeting. So we don't want to start creating too many parallel discussion. We just want to make sure there's a clear understanding and a mandate for each one and what the need is, and try to have the same people in the room for the right conversation. So I think those are significant. And also, I just want to express my appreciation to being invited by Magellan Broadband for the San Luis Obispo Cities project, and getting a really good summary of what the plans are, a need analysis, and how they plan to implement it. It was it sounded like it's off to the races with that plan as well. So that's the summary at the point. I hope really soon to be able to put a little bit more clarity into what it's going to look like, what the regional plan will truly look like in San Luis Obispo County in the coming 2 weeks. Alan, maybe do you want to add anything at your end for the goals of the group that we're trying to convene through SLOCOG? Is there anything more? Or do you think that would be a good summary?
I thought that was a really good summary, Russ. If there was one thing I wanted to add, again, we just want to really make sure we're convening the people that know the infrastructure and that can help, I guess, get this project on track. But really, it's not a decision making or implementation group. It really is just, I guess, kind of an informational and educational group where we're really trying to get all of the proper stakeholders to be aware of, the emerging grant opportunities and emerging legislation and moves that we can be making as a region. I think of particular interest might be identifying priority areas for infrastructure projects in our region, and submitting or trying to get I guess coordination for submitting challenges to the maps that are out right now, and really just improving these priority areas for when the last mile funding becomes available. We're capturing that money in a proper way. And one thing personally I would like to maybe try to accomplish with this group is try to get more support for a region-wide programmatic environmental impact report. But yeah, those are just some of the goals I can envision this group having as of now, but really it will just be trying to improve regional coordination here in the San Luis Obispo region.
Thanks.
Jory, jump on in.
Thank you, everyone. I just know that Magellan is going to be going to City Council in SLO on April 11th, I believe it is, or April 6th. Will can correct me. I'm going to cue you up for just a moment, Will. But we would be more than happy to engage in conversations and share what's taking place at the City of San Luis Obispo, and in assisting in any other way that we can in providing data for the efforts there in San Luis Obispo County. Also, I'll ask Will to just give you all an update about how things are going in San Luis Obispo County with the initial report that we're providing to them in the beginning of April. But also I wanted to just make note that the map that you see here, and I've heard conversation about the priority areas map from the CPUC. Please know that the priority areas map has been taken down, and the CPUC is no longer promoting priority areas strategy or concept. It is in the process. If you take a look at their priority areas website, based upon the comments that they heard about the priority areas map, they're coming up with a new strategy and a new map. And all of that is taking place between now and what looks like might be an application window opening for last mile in the middle of the month of June. So I encourage you all to take a look at that update. They've got a good Visio flow of what they're doing with the new mapping update and when you can expect to be able to provide feedback to their initial update and redraft. Will, over to you for SLO.
Yeah, we're going to the city council on April 4th in SLO we're calling it a budget update memo as part of their biannual budget process, helping them kind of think about and plan, even though the plan's not complete yet or whatever. But we do have a lot of information and we've made a lot of progress, and we're kind of just at this point going to be wrapping everything up. I anticipate that staff report will be out sometime in the next couple of weeks and published, and that will have the memo in there as well as the staff report that the staff is writing. I think it's encouraging to see the city moving so fast, and I think, you know, if we expand that out in the region, I think there's a lot of things happening that can build on each other. So I know Josh is participating in the county's task force, and so hopefully he's able to share as much information as he can and some of his experiences in this rapid process we've done with the city to get them moving along. So we're looking forward to April 4, and we'll see what the city, what kind of direction the city council provides at that point. That's it.
Thank you both for those updates. Anything more we should add into the SLO conversation, the San Luis Obispo County conversation? All right, so moving towards Santa Barbara County, we are waiting to hear back on a LATA grant application that would serve countywide programmatic EIR and a JPA that would join together the municipalities to work towards a common purpose. And one other municipality that I believe has submitted a LATA grant or is waiting until the county receives approval on theirs. So we're a little bit in a holding pattern right now. We'll be convening as the Broadband Consortium, a group of municipal technical contacts, points of contact for broadband across the cities and the unincorporated areas, just to exchange updates on planning efforts and information post broadband strategic plan. So we'll be convening that meeting next week and hope to have more information about what's going on citywide and countywide. Carrie, did you want to share anything about the North County fiber?
Sure. Be happy to, Shelby. Just a little background. I came on in November and we issued a RFP, and Teleworks in December was selected to be our contractor. And what we're looking for is a 2-route option up north with capital construction costs, develop comparisons. We're looking for 3 models of governance that Teleworks will be working on, options for cost and funding. And then we want to determine the ops and maintenance estimates for each route and each governance option. And then finally, estimated capital construction costs for each route alternative and provide a cost benefit comparison. In January and February, we've been going around to the cities in North County, trying to establish who our contacts are. We were with Vandenberg yesterday. We need to find out, of course, as you guys are trying to find out, where's the fiber, what's the trenches, what's the cables. We're looking for all that information. And then our bottom line is that we expect Teleworks to give us a market analysis by June 1st, and then to give us the route options and the governance models by 1 July. and then the business plan by 1 August. So we're working on a very short timeline to establish all that. And we want with our GIS to be compatible with the South, but we're also tracking some extra stuff that we might need later for North County. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. Thank you, Shelby.
Thank you, Carrie. And we'll move then to Ventura County. Bill, any updates for the middle mile?
Well, I do want to cue Jory to be in a holding pattern, or actually probably Terry, and Terry may default to Jory. To talk about just where the status is of the middle mile initiative. I will mention that, we have our share of LATA grants as well. The county of Ventura received one. And the cities of Ventura, Santa Paula have received them, and I believe Port Hueneme is going to be putting an application in. We've put an application in from the Ventura Council of Governments, and that's going to be doing similar work to what Alan Kazar is talking about in the SLO County area, a regional strategy and a game plan. A lot of this is really rolling up in terms of, Jory was referencing the last mile funding in the June announcement. We want to have all three regions, equally positioned to know exactly what to do with those funds. And so these organizations are coming together in a very nice way with all the cities and partners lined up. And so stand by. It's going to be a really interesting ride. And finally, we had our digital equity launch for the coalition February 23rd, had a nice turnout, nice conversation. And so that conversation continues as well. Terry, do you want to give a brief in terms of where you're at with your middle mile initiative?
Sure, and like you said, Jory can augment where he feels is appropriate. So we completed our RFP. We have a vendor to select and award a contract to. We're just working with procurement on that. So once we have that, the next step we will take is to finalize our contract with Ventura County Transportation Commission for the selected route, which will be along the Santa Paula Railway, and that will connect us from Santa Clarita down to One Wilshire, through a number of unincorporated areas and some cities to reach the city of Ventura. This is kind of one of our main objectives. And then we will also be submitting for an EDA grant to obtain the funding for this. So our goal is to be beginning to initiate our project by the end of the year, if not sooner.
I think, Jerry, you covered it really well. Bill, you did as well. There's been quite a lot of progress being made because of LATA. And as Bill indicated, the city of Santa Paula and the city of Ventura, as well as the county of Ventura, all have received funding through LATA. Hopefully you can see my screen here of the map for the phase 1 and phase B of Ventura County. Can everyone see that? The project really is a 4-phase project, which was envisioned about a year ago. And we've successfully applied for LATA. You can see that it's being built in 4 phases along the 126, the 130, the 33, connecting all of the cities within the southern portion of Ventura County. The LATA application, which was received, the award which was received by the county, is to build phase 1A from the city of Santa Clarita along the 126 alignment on the BCPC rail line that you see here in purple. The red is new underground, the dark blue is aerial, the purple is actually going to be plowing on the rail line, along the rail line. It'll be connecting to the 118 and coming back almost into Moore Park. And this is, the award is going to fund design engineering for all of that effort. Our goal is, from what you saw in the previous map, through the RFP process that we're finishing up now, we do have a provider who has offered local match for the last mile, has also offered services of in-kind to do joint build along with the county along phase 1A and phase B. And in addition to that, which covers about 88% of majority minority Hispanic populations that are and underserved, meeting both the federal and state criteria. So that is the goal of this project, is to focus on those unserved areas of Piru, Fillmore, of Saticoy, El Rio, and Somas. And that is the purpose for the design engineering that we're doing. Partnering with the service provider, we expect to get a lot more bang for our buck and be able to, again, apply for last mile infrastructure money. In speaking with the service provider, it looks like they want to partner with us and complete a portion of the next phase of the project, which is actually going through the city of Ventura and into the city of Oxnard, and through the city of Oxnard into the city of Port Hueneme. As we know, Santa Paula did get a LADA award as well. They're in the process of issuing an RFP to do last mile work in the city. The city of Ventura also received last mile money, LADA money from the state. And they are going to be completing design engineering. They just selected Magellan to do that on Monday of this week. So we'll be coupling the design engineering for not only the county LADA award, but also the city of Ventura LADA award. And we're working with the consultant that's working very closely with the folks over there in Port Hueneme. We've done master planning in Oxnard, and we know about their assets. So we expect to be able to go well beyond what we intended to do in first phase 1A and 1B, but actually get into completing phase 2, which is going to add the city of Ventura, Oxnard, and Hueneme to the network. That is a little bit more detail than Terry provided. The committee is meeting to wrap up the selection of the third-party service provider that will operate the network and do joint build with the county at the end of this month. So we expect to start conversations about a contract and an agreement with them in the month of April.
One other thing, Jerry, I'll add, and I think this is important for the other counties as well, is as soon as we have the contract award in hand, the EDA grant app applied for, and the BCPC contract in place, my intent is to I've already contacted through our legislative analyst, California state legislators, and I'm going to recontact the CPUC and say, we're building one of your middle miles for you. Do you want to participate in this, or do you want to spend more taxpayer money and do your own thing? And as an FYI, California, we've already presented this to the California Department of Technology, who's doing the design work on this middle mile, and they said they would consider it, but I'm guessing they are still working on it. But they said if we were to proceed, they would want 3 conduits in the ground with ours, which is possible with our approach that we're using. I also would then, if they were to agree with that, then I would also suggest that partnering with local agencies who are willing to provide the project management and the other resources to produce middle mile segments that align with the state segments is maybe a better solution than relying on Caltrans to do it, if I dare make that statement. So that wraps my part up. Thanks.
So can I go on this? I have 2 points I want to add to what you've heard. Number one is Shelby's made a contact yesterday with the Golden State Network and Caltrans, and we're in the process with Tim's help of coming up with a gap analysis, looking at your middle mile map, looking at their map, and talking about gaps and how we're going to do this. As a consortia, we do want to move this conversation forward to deconflict these efforts and make sure that we can get everybody in the room to say, this is how we're going to do this, how are we going to do it together, and let's, leverage all these activities in the same way. So we started that process. Shelby did yesterday, and we're going to keep that going. The other thing I'll mention is the catalyst effect. You were introduced on the slide as middle mile, but in the process of talking middle mile, we were talking last mile and digital equity. By having this all occur this way with all of us talking about it, when the project actually is executed, we can be doing these overlays and these conversations, not stovepiping it, but actually do a middle mile, having the community-based organizations come in and help with digital equity as we do the last mile, and really trying to bring all these resources to bear from all these different directions at the very strategic time that we need them to come together. And so, Terry, I'm grateful for your leadership all along, and in terms of moving this forward. And I really appreciate the fact that you share this information, and we can ride on your coattails and use it to mobilize community action. So, Shelby, back to you.
Thank you all for that sort of in-depth conversation. I do think that it's a great inspiration for the other counties to start looking at all of our options in terms of getting this job done, rather than just waiting on what the state says they're going to happen. So thanks again for sharing. I'm going to hand it over to Tim to talk a little bit more about regional GIS efforts that we have been working towards, to get your feedback and input as well. And Tim, take it away.
Thank you very much. I'm going to be sharing my screen. Shelby, you let me know when you see my screen.
Yep, we got it.
Okay, hi everybody. So Tim here, doing GIS support for the Broadband Consortium. I've prepared a few remarks and a few slides. Some of this is directed at people that would need a basic introduction to GIS. I don't think that's anyone here today, so I'm going to speed through about half of my slides, but I will hit them quickly. And again, Shelby or Bill, if you want to interject and redirect me to anything as I go along, that's fine. Okay, so what I'm here to talk about is what GIS is about, what we've been doing with GIS at the Broadband Consortium, and what we plan to do using GIS in our region in the future. Okay, so for starters, GIS software is software for making maps, but not just a graphical map, but rather a map that's really based on data. And that data it happens to be, and a lot of people don't get this, is really it's essentially spreadsheets. Okay, and so showing here, I have a screenshot of some speed test data from the speed test survey that we've deployed across our 3 counties, and it's represented on the maps as dots, and the color of the dots represents the data values themselves, and so graphically that's what you have. But in terms of looking at the data itself, in this image on the left, what you see is it's a spreadsheet, and so every one of these dots has, in GIS lingo, what you call a number of attributes associated with the point, which are the name and the date and the IP address and the upload speed and the download speed and the Senate district and the school district that the dots may fall into. And this is important for people to realize because I think it takes a lot of the intimidation out of this. When you realize that a map of all these points, lines, and polygons that may be on it is really just a series of spreadsheets that happen to be visualized, because in these spreadsheets, not shown here, is some geographic information, an XY coordinate that allows the software to plot the thing on a map. And really, that's all you're dealing with here. That's what GIS is at its essence. However, GIS does have a certain bad reputation as being requiring exotic software to run the stuff, and specialist operators, people like me, to use the stuff for you. And that translates into expense and complexity, which translates into a lot of organizations, especially when you get into the world of CBOs. You know, and I thought we'd have a bunch of CBO people here on the talk today. CBO people just not being able to afford these tools or the people who operate the tools. And so it's something that these people, they see happening, but they can't use directly, and that translates into a lot of frustration. And that's something that in the conclusion of my slides that I'll talk about how we at the consortium intend to address that deficiency in the world of GIS. But first, let's talk about what we've been doing with GIS at the consortium over the past year, especially in Santa Barbara County, where we put out the GIS strategy report for broadband. So what we've done, or primarily I did, is I started with assembling a data library of several dozen different GIS data files, or what we call data layers. And these came from a number of sources, partially including the CPUC, the FCC, the US Census, statewide GIS libraries, county GIS sources, city GIS sources, as well. And so this requires a certain degree of detective work and knowing what to look for and who to talk to, and then knowing what it is you're looking at once you found something. And some of the sources some of the topics that these GIS files that I assembled relate to are political jurisdictions, infrastructure, such as roads, or in some cases, the Holy Grail that we're all talking about. You know, where's the present broadband actually installed? Population demographics, economic data, and a variety of other things. And so what we have here on the bottom right corner is a partial sampling. I know the images are small, but a partial sampling of in summary, of some of the many individual GIS data layers that we assembled into our library. And the thing about these is that because every one of these GIS layers is plottable on a map by the geography, these can be interchanged in a variety of ways. Sort of like how a kid could build something made out of Lego bricks. You can have one Lego set and you combine it with another Lego set and make something entirely new, because all this data is interchangeable. And so data that came from a certain source for a certain purpose can be down the road repurposed if you get into the hands of somebody else who wants to use your data as a baseline for some new project that they're doing in the future. And so the point being that the practice of GIS is highly collaborative, where different GIS operators they get to know each other, and they get to interchanging data as they do different projects over the course of time. And then wrapping up what we've done over the past year with the Broadband Consortium is from this data library, we've produced a great variety of maps, some of which made it into our final report, others of which were for our internal purposes. And again, it was a process of taking these many layers and putting them together in different ways to look at different contexts and to try to better understand the region we're serving. And in this particular case, this one map I have up here is a simple map of just 4 layers. We have a base layer. We have the county outline of Santa Barbara County, cities in the county, and then these funny shaped polygons in different shades of blue. Many of you probably know what this is. These are the census blocks, which is the finest granularity of a geography that the US Census at the federal level looks at. And in this particular case, these blocks are colored light blue to dark blue according to census data, how many different ISPs are operating within a given census block. So it gives a way of conveying visually the density of ISPs operating in certain areas. But also, let me say, as an aside, GIS is much more than just making a map for visual presentation, as we see here, where we can visually get a sense of how of density of ISPs in certain areas. While GIS is certainly about that, and that's what most people think of when they think about what does GIS do, how do I use this, what is this tool for, there is another purpose of GIS, or another function I should say, which is you really can use it from, and you can ask the software analytical questions, like you could have it count how many residences are within a certain block, census block, for instance. And you can have it do different kinds of calculations of that nature, and really get a little bit deeper into just making pictures of things. But that would require many more slides to explore. I just wanted to put that idea in your heads. And we could talk about that later if somebody wants to. Now, finally, to the future. And Shelby, help direct me here, just in case I'm missing anything that you want me to emphasize. So having these tools and having this data here, what we really want to do for the future, though, is to take this in a bolder direction, and to really build, as I put here in parentheses, in quotes, we really want to take this into the hands of the members of our regional community, and this is not just governmental workers at the counties and the cities, but on down to the people who are at the CBOs and the NGOs, and to really build a GIS-based community, which foundational to which is going to be putting simplified GIS tools directly into the hands of these people, so that they don't have, when they want to do something with mapping, it doesn't have to go through some guy like me. I'm here, and I'm here to help, but I shouldn't have to be, or me or someone like me should not have to be the sole person who's doing everything for other people. And through deploying simple tools through the web, I can go from being the doer to just being a helper, so that people can be operating on their own data, ultimately for the purpose of doing their own collaboration with other people in their region. And the purpose of this collaboration, I would initially be for broadband planning, but having established these tools, other opportunities to derive value from this will present themselves. Okay, Shelby, I'm going to stop myself there. If you want to interject any remarks, maybe we can do a little back and forth.
Yeah, one of the reasons that I asked Tim to present this and open up the conversation is that participating in the Digital Equity Coalition conversations in Santa Barbara County, Ventura County, and what's starting up in SLO, our CBOs have a lot of valuable information about the needs of the community. And one of the points that I have heard from the leaders in those digital equity conversations is how delighted they are to be included at this point in the conversation, when infrastructure plans are being made and routes are being designed, and the types of broadband infrastructure that are needed for each community are being deployed. So
if you don't mind, Shelby, just define CBOs. I don't know if everybody is
sure.
That term.
Community-based organizations. So thank you, Belle. This includes our community foundations, but it also includes a lot of the nonprofit organizations that work in the communities with the folks that we are trying to serve, the unreached, the unserved, and the underserved. So we've been developing stronger, closer relationships with those organizations to bring them into the conversation at this point, while our infrastructure folks are doing the good work they're doing, so that we can start to really hear what's going on. I'll, to continue to pile on a little bit of praise, but I recall a conversation with Terry Theobald a few months back of saying, not everyone needs the same infrastructure. We need to ask the community members what their needs are and how we can meet those needs. And bringing GIS to the whole community that's working towards deploying broadband is one way to start doing that and working collaboratively. So the reason that we're opening this up is to hear your input. There's a lot of folks on this call that are really embedded in the actual physical infrastructure process and planning. We've got a couple of people who are here representing nonprofits or educational institutions, the chamber. And we're interested to hear a little bit more about your thoughts on what data you'd like to see that would be helpful in your planning efforts for adoption, and as well as from the infrastructure folks about what information might help your process.
Shelby, I see Terry's got his hand up.
Please go ahead, Terry.
Sorry, I just thought I would, because you mentioned the comment about, the collaboration. I think it's important to note that in the case of Ventura County, we started this effort in 2014 before there was sort of a digital divide and COVID and all the focus on this. And our original plan was to lower our costs for a government interconnection and internet costs. And so part of the driver to continue to move forward kind of on our own here is there's a money equation here that saves the county and our taxpayers money. And so while we have attempted to collaborate with cities and other entities within the county, we haven't had, I would say, a high degree of receptiveness when I first started doing that a couple of years ago. And that's part of the reason why we're driving forward kind of on our own, because there are benefits to us, as I previously stated. So if it looks like we're kind of the lone wolf off doing our own thing, I would say that's a correct characterization of what we're doing for those reasons. So just wanted to add that. Thanks.
Okay, well, Terry, I'd be interested in knowing more about what you're saying. I'll email you. Okay.
Sure. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Lenore?
Thanks. So on the adoption piece, and I'm not sure how we could map this with GIS, but it would be really helpful to have a sense of which CBOs and educational entities and organizations are servicing what population and what geographic area, to avoid duplicative efforts, but also where Cox and other ISPs can get our resources out to eligible households and work directly with those specific nonprofits to make sure that they are the ones reaching out directly to their population and sharing these resources with them.
Absolutely. And a couple projects I can share with you. I will send a link out later to Valley Vision is up in the Sacramento area. They host the broadband consortium up there, and they have, for example, a dashboard that shows, technical device ownership in neighborhoods and the level of capacity in terms of digital literacy. So there's a lot of opportunities there. The second project that I want to share is UCSB is working with, I believe, the Santa Barbara Foundation, and they're doing a service area desert map, right? So they're looking at Santa Barbara County and not just where our social services and support services located, but where do they serve, right? What neighborhoods do they actively serve? And is there a gap there? So that information is being gathered to help improve their services. And I think it can be shared and adequately leveraged to promote this conversation as we're working together to be a little more collaborative.
That's great. Thanks.
I was hoping Amy Gonzalez from UCSB would be here today to share some updates about the project she's working on this summer, but maybe we'll get her on here next month to share information about that.
There's actually a number of grant funds that are available, especially to universities that are assisting in this effort, working with neighborhood CBOs and actually creating internship programs. I'd like to refer you all to Alana Alschwang, who's over at Cal State Dominguez Hills. She just recently started up a pilot for about $250,000 and just recently got almost, I think, $700,000 to continue that project. But this is really something that takes a lot of work, a lot of boots on the ground. Another interesting model that I've seen is what's going on over in LA Deal and also in GBLA. Which is coming out of some of which is coming out of the LA EDC. They've established committees like this. There's an infrastructure committee, there's an adoption committee, and then there's a grants and funding committee that meet on a regular basis. It does pull in all the CBOs to the adoption committee. And those people are working very closely with one another in applying for grants and also targeting the areas like Crenshaw, Watts, East LA, and others for LA County in particular that we all know are unserved and underserved. So really targeted, to get to your targeted populations, first of all, you need to know where they are. So survey data is also very, very key. And if you can stand up an ongoing survey instrument through GIS, that would be very essential, not only to debate with the FCC or the feds on their new mappings, but also even with the state of California for that matter. But those maps would not only serve those purposes, but those maps and databases would go to serve the effort to work where the money should be applied to the CBOs to carry out this effort. I can't agree more. ACP adoption is extremely low. Getting people to respond, to sign up. There's a lot of mysticism about ACP that someone's going to be collecting information about you, and Big Brother is going to be coming after you. It's really concerning. So something has to change in how people get access to ACP. There are only two ways that I'm aware of you can get access to ACP now. One is you have to go to a federal website. Two, on the federal website, it'll tell you where to find your local provider and how you can get ACP through them. But it's too government oriented. It's got to get down to the community level. And I believe that that universities and colleges have a big role to play here.
Thanks, Jory. That actually is a perfect segue into our next slide here. Talking about inclusion efforts and ACP particularly. You hit the nail on the head in terms of colleges. We are working with the basic needs centers in several of our colleges that already signed folks up for CalFresh to make sure that they're trained and prepared to help their students with ACP enrollment. But we are working with CETF as well. We'll circle back around to these DE conference and roundtable in just a few minutes, but I wanted to share, since we're on the topic, about the ACP enrollment in our area. So we work with CETF, California Emerging Technologies Fund. They have given us a grant over the past year to help support adoption, deployment, and support our conversations with local municipalities to ease adoption or ease deployment opportunities for ISPs and construction. But this chart here, CETF prepared for us, and it shows that in our region, only 25% of the eligible households are actually enrolled in ACP. Ventura County is at 30%. That's about on par with the percentage of eligible households in California that are enrolled. But in Santa Barbara and San Luis Obispo County, we are lagging behind sort of the standard for the state of California. We also have enrollment rates by zip code. If it will pop up. Oops, that's the correct link. Sorry about that. We do have enrollment by zip code, which I can share out that information that shows us per municipality in each of our counties, what is the percentage of folks who are eligible and what is the percentage of those folks who are registered for ACP, so that we can do a little bit more targeting in terms of our adoption rates. Several of the ISPs on this call are really helpful in promoting this adoption opportunity and having specific guidance, whether that be PDFs or a point of contact that can help people enroll in ACP. But it is also still a little bit confusing for people who are in other service areas. CETF is hosting on April 22nd a statewide event for ACP enrollment. And we are actively seeking hosts for enrollment events. Being a host really entails that you have a site that can be used for ACP enrollment. that you have volunteers that can be trained to do the ACP enrollment. We do have some volunteers that can come and sort of be leads in that process, but it does entail having some volunteers to help with the process of holding an event. And we are here to help with that. If anyone would like to host an enrollment event on April 22nd, if that date doesn't work, there's nothing restricting you in hosting an event on another day or another time. But April 22nd will be when CETF is supporting with marketing materials. If we register events by April 1, then they will send out mailers to eligible households in the zip codes that are served by your enrollment site in order to get the word out by mail, not just through your organizations. And they will also pay for social media advertising that is geo-targeted towards the communities that are served by organizations that host enrollment events. If there's anyone on this call or anyone in your networks that you think might be interested in hosting an event, they can register for info sessions. I will include that link after this meeting in the follow-up email, and get started becoming an enrollment event site. We're here to help and host, not host directly, but to help hosts to alert the community about these enrollment events as well. Eleanor, did you want to add something to that?
Yeah, well, thank you. And happy to get the word out to eligible potential hosts. Are there any confirmed locations yet as of now?
Not that I'm aware of yet.
Okay. Okay.
We're still working on reaching out to partners. We had 6 sites in August when they did a similar event. And then I think we had 3 sites in October. We just did an enrollment event last month in Lompoc that had a great turnout. But, we have not had anyone stand up and volunteer. CETF planned this to align with Earth Day. I go back and forth about how wise that is. I think that it depends on your community, whether there will be other events or if we can align an ACP enrollment alongside an Earth Day event as well.
Shelby, let me ask some questions. And also every Saturday at Allen Hancock College, we're doing low income tax returns. We are passing out a piece of paper about the enrollment. We're also doing asking them to do speed tests. But is there a more formalized way to try to get people to sign up? A table with somebody there to talk to them? What might we do?
In fact, Carrie, there's an amazing organization, the American GI Forum, that is located in Santa Maria, and they a large bulk of their funding is actually for conducting enrollments. And so I will write an email introduction to you and for you and Rigo Hernandez, who is the main point of contact at AGIF. And just for everyone's purposes, AGIF will travel. They go up to SLO, they go down to Ventura, they go to Santa Barbara, and they are enrollment specialists that are happy to not only talk to people about ACP, but help them enroll and follow up with them if their enrollment doesn't go through right away. So they are a very hands-on organization developing relationships with people.
So Shelby, we'll be doing it for 3 more Saturdays up till April the 8th. Maybe too late for this Saturday, but we usually have about 80 to 100 low-income taxpayers that come in, and I'm sure 90% of them would qualify. So
absolutely right.
So if you can get that information to me or chat it, I can call him today.
Perfect. I'll send it over.
Thank you, Shelby.
Thanks, Carrie. See, look, great collaboration. It's exactly what we're hoping for. Anything else on ACP enrollments? We've had some really strong conversations about if ACP is the best answer. And it's obviously not the only answer, but it is one great option for people who need it. So if you have organizations that are able to participate in this, please send them our way. I also wanted to update everyone in order to access BEAD funding through the BEAD funding is coming down through the Infrastructure and Jobs Act. BEAD funding is being distributed to the states. The state of California is required to submit a digital equity plan in order to be eligible for digital equity funding and BEAD funding from the federal government. And they are working on developing that plan. One of the next two items on this agenda are about that state digital equity plan. The first is a regional local meeting, is what they're calling it, regional and local, I guess, to tie it together. We will be hosting with Allen Hancock College, Santa Barbara Foundation, the California Department of Technology, and CPUC on June 1st at Allen Hancock College. This is a save the date announcement. We will have more information coming out for you in the next couple of weeks. But the conversations and the panels that we will be holding on June 1st at Allen Hancock will be part of the data collection process feeding into the state digital equity plan. This is a meeting for everyone from our region, San Luis Obispo, Santa Barbara, and Ventura counties. We tried to pick a place that was close to the middle to minimize the travel for as many people as we could. And we understand that ideally we'd have one in each county. It's just not possible to get the Department of Technology and CPUC to be able to attend an event in each of the three counties. So we are compiling into one event on June 1st. We really hope that you'll participate and that you will help us promote this event to get a lot of input from the folks who are representing the most underserved and unserved people in our Tri-County area. The second data collection piece that you can participate in to help feed this digital equity plan is the outcome area working groups. This week they're holding several work groups. They will be announcing the next meetings. I believe they'll be in May, but the outcome area working groups convene subject matter experts from along the 8 priority groups to make sure we're gathering information about the folks who need support and who should be centered in the digital equity plan statewide. So education, digital literacy and inclusion, workforce and economic development, health, essential services, accessibility and civic engagement, and then a tribal collaboration outcome area working group are all convening this week. They will post the next dates soon. They will be in May, I believe, and we'll be including that information in our newsletter. If any of these topics speak to you, or if you are able to provide input, these are really engaging meetings with a lot of great ideas, innovations, and opportunities that have been implemented across the state, but also really drilling down into what the barriers and the challenges are in each of our communities. I strongly encourage, if you have any available time and specific information in any of these areas, we strongly encourage you to sign up and attend an OAWG meeting. Any questions on the state digital equity plan or the inclusion information we just covered? That reaches the end of our agenda. So if anyone has additional updates that they'd like to share, please feel free to unmute yourself and share. Otherwise, we thank you for your participation today. Any closing thoughts from BCPC team members?
Just wanted to echo what the idea that the last mile conversation is heating up, and that a lot of the stuff we were talking about with GIS and this collaborative approach to it is very civic entrepreneurish. It's going to be, we're kind of building an airplane while it's in flight. And so we really are going to put a lot of time and attention, because there's a tremendous opportunity for redundancy and waste if everybody goes their own way on this. And we just feel like if we can figure out a way to get everybody using the same data sets and working together, it's going to be the best way to get it done. The last mile is going to be a great way to get meaningful data collected. And in Tim's last slide, where he showed the density of ISPs, it's going to be that kind of data is going to be very, very important in terms of where to deploy resources and close gaps. So we just want it's anecdotal right now. We don't know where it's going to go, how we're going to do it, but it's really getting exciting to be part of this conversation. The other thing I'll add is I'm expecting in the next month or two as well, smart city activity to be heating up. We're just now month 2 into the new 3-year consortia activity. And so as we ramp that up, that's going to be kind of fun to be sharing with everybody as well.
Thank you, Bill. Shelby, if I might.
Sure, please.
Well, this is really a very key moment in the history of municipal broadband or publicly owned broadband assets. And I think it's really very important that you all really understand the guidelines, not only for LATA in carrying out your audits and doing your due diligence with your planning work, but you get really primed and ready for the guidance and the standards and guidelines that are issued for California Last Mile, as well as CASIF, and also the up and coming capital projects, the 580 million that the state received from the US Treasury under their 46 billion in capital project funding. So take all this seriously, but please know that you need to not just be shovel ready, but you need to be grant ready. And I really want to just share with you what that means. First of all, you need to be organized. You have a plan, and you need to know that you're organized, that you are eligible. Be careful about RDOF, because these are federal dollars. And if you're anticipating, well, I'll build it and we'll be done with it, they're going to claw back the money if it's federal money and you're building in RDOF areas. Please know that if you don't know what RDOF is, I can help you figure that out. But it's a government funded program. You cannot overbuild anything that's already been federally funded. And RDOF is really an auction process where service providers respond to an auction and they get awarded certain areas throughout the country. Those areas then become locked up under RDOF. And if the government, the feds are going to fund those projects, should the service providers go forward and actually develop on those projects. Most of those projects don't get developed. So RDOF is a bad thing in many ways because it sets aside federal money that's not going to end up being used. And it also locks up properties or land where you might want to need to build because those areas fall into your eligibility requirements. Look at your eligibility requirements, look at what's already locked up in RDOF, and be certain that you have a provider partner in tow, because you have to, in applying for last mile and looking at the guidelines, or really any other federal programs, you need to be matching up with 25-3, 120 eligibility. You need to be providing services at a minimum of 100 symmetrical when you build these networks. And you have to have an experienced operator to operate the network when you go after last mile. And in many cases, of CASIF money too. I don't anticipate that your public agency is going to jump into the utility business or even jump into operating a broadband network. First of all, even if you did, you wouldn't qualify because you don't have experience. And so put out an RFP like the county of Ventura did and many, many other counties throughout the United States are. Get yourself a partner. You may not need to have an agreement negotiated, but at least have a letter of support and have them apply for last mile with you arm in arm. You're going to be eligible at that point. If you don't have a partner that can operate the network, you won't get the money.
Thanks for sharing, Jordan. Any other closing thoughts?
Tell you your agenda.
I'm sorry,
I said we're right on time with the agenda that you put up. 10 minutes to spare.
this is it, yeah, this is it. I'm excited that we had the roundtable discussion in each topic rather than waiting till the end. So I think that if there aren't any other closing thoughts, then we can go ahead and thank everybody. I'll stop the recording and we can plan to see each other next month. If you have any items you'd like to add to the newsletter, please send them my way and we will get them out to our recipients. So thanks everyone for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.